a flashback-filled episode to not only early seasons of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but also Real Housewives of Orange County. Plus, a mid-season bombshell has one cast member on life support for now. But let's pick up right where we left off last episode with Erika taunting Crystal with a chicken nugget, chicken tender, right after they had a heart-to-heart about eating disorders. But before we get to the fallout with that, we want to briefly get to some lighter content with Kathy Hilton thinking she has met Sheree before, where Sheree respectfully corrects Kathy, saying, well, Kathy, I don't think we ever met before. And of course, the editors take this moment to remind us of last season's premiere event of Kathy mistaking Garcelle for her sister Kyle because of their similar long black hair. Okay, at least Kathy's consistent, I guess. And Kathy does say in person to Sheree and onlookers, well, you never know my eyes. Okay, maybe get them checked, get them fixed, Kathy, with all your money, because at some point that reason is not going to work, especially in this group having a history of seeing and not seeing things. Maybe also could be a strategy for Kathy to have an easy excuse to kind of say, oh, I'm the only one that can see out of my eyes. How dare you tell me otherwise? Anyways, let's keep going for some holiday cheer with Diana Jenkins' fiance Asher, stage name Asher Monroe, more on that in a moment, warming up his voice for some live Christmas music where, of course, Erika Jayne has to pretend she is some musical legend trying to read the music on the music stand, but Asher quickly shoos Erika away, saying, you can't read those, girl. Not sure if he meant you can't read the set list because it's secret and I don't want people to know what songs I'm going to sing before I sing them. Or he was putting Erika in her place, basically saying, I'm a real musician. You are not Erika. Get out of here. Stop trying to pretend. I don't know. Let me know what you thought of that. But Diana adds something to the effect of, oh, you can show off your Broadway background. Ha ha ha. Kind of joking. And Erika responded, honey, that shit died years ago. Like, at least she's being honest at this point that her career's kind of dead. Anyways, we start with I thought was a really well done rendition of Oh Holy Night by Asher and a pianist that everyone was enjoying until unfortunately an intoxicated Erika Jayne was enjoying it too much and ends up trying to sing along with Asher from the audience, and we get a very clear indication who the better vocalist is. And if you're not sure, I'll give you a hint just in case. It is not Erika Jayne. Just saying. And then we get some good edits of the girls, and you can kind of see here Garcelle doing it. Looking at Erika, kind of weird, and most of them confessing their annoyance by her in this moment. But Asher clearly is a professional and lets the show go on and proceeded to shut Erika up by hitting many of the high notes that she could never. First, this scene solidified my take that Diana and Asher remind me of Yolanda and David Foster on the show many years ago, where David would perform at dinner parties and have like special guests or whatever. Second, I had been trying to put my finger on why Asher looked familiar or where I maybe had seen his name or heard his name before, and I finally looked him up and realized I remember him from years ago as his solo artist stage name Asher Monroe, who I believe was like an artist on the rise or something picked by MTV many years ago, or as part of like the Now That's What I Call Music, where they would put like new artists' songs at the very end of the album. However, I guess I never really listened to his music because I did look up some of his catalog of music that was available that I could find, and I didn't really recognize any of the tunes, but I do remember like the names of the songs or something. I don't know. But I did peep, though, in some of the music videos, Diana's Nero Water was product placement in that. So there's a little throwback, flashback, behind the scenes, background, whatever for you. But as far as Erika in this scene, so Brandi Glanville was the guest on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen after this episode, and she tried justifying Erika singing along by saying it was supposed to be a Christmas sing-along caroling thing, but I don't remember seeing anyone singing like out loud trying to match Asher's vocal level or volume. I saw some people mouthing the words, just kind of singing along, but also Asher did not do what I think the normal social cue is for a singer on stage when they want you to sing along with them, which is taking the microphone and pointing it to you saying, everybody now sing along, let's go, let's hear you. I didn't really take it as a fun Christmas caroling moment, but anyways, it just continues to show Erika's lack of self-awareness and not really caring to catch any social cues as of late. All right, we then get some more very Beverly Hills light conversation about Kathy wearing an antique bag, she says, from last season, which was a joke, of course. And we see some outfits shedding and some of them spilling some snacks, where then Erika reminds us again how lit she is, and is followed by her apologizing kind of to Kathy for not showing up for Paris's wedding events because she didn't want to bring her dark cloud to those happy occasions, where Kathy clearly is trying to be a bigger person, and I think also sees Erika's a little inebriated here, saying, "Oh, thank you for at least telling us you're not coming and RSVPing," and says, "I always respect that," instead of people not responding. But Erika then asks Kathy to send a message to her kids that it was not personal, while crying with real tears, as if Kathy and Paris and Nikki Hilton and the family and the friends were so devastated that Erika Jayne Girardi didn't show up for their big day. But Erika quickly snaps out of it and all of a sudden is complimenting how beautiful the bride was, where the group then takes this kind of turn of events and happy Erika as a quick thing to cheers to Carter and Harris and a Merry Christmas and to move on and move out of this setting. Of course, at least Kathy does. The other two stay with Erika. But meanwhile, Kyle is filling in Garcelle on the luncheon that she was absent for. We saw last episode with more Sutton and Diana drama, where we also learned Sutton tested positive for the virus right before the party. Like she was about to head over to the party and she tested positive, leading to the girls then all agreeing Sutton seems to be struggling being alone and single, especially during the holidays. I'm not sure if Kyle bringing this up to the entire group was her doing it from a pure intention, or she was trying to get a subtle dig at Sutton, kind of making fun of her for being single and alone. I don't know, but Kathy then joins this group after the Erika meltdown, repeating to this group what just happened, saying Erika is getting out of control. And as Lisa, we see, is telling Erika to kind of put her drink down, but this is followed by Kathy wisely saying in response to Garcelle saying, "Oh, did you know that she told my son F off?" In reference to Erika's behavior. You don't want to put yourself in a position of drinking and losing control and doing something stupid, which I think is a very wise, normal thing to say from Kathy and very motherly. Where Kyle, in front of her sister and the group, continues to stick to her narrative of liking this Erika letting loose for a change and wants to implore everyone to cut her some slack. But Garcelle, now with Kathy on her side, present with her, isn't afraid to stand up to Kyle, saying, "No, you cut her some slack. I don't have to cut her some slack." Where Garcelle continues saying, "We can't always just be in denial about a friend just to save our friendship." Where Garcelle lists all the recent occasions we saw her acting out inebriated, not only for our recollection, but also I think to ensure that the friends of who are kind of new to the season, Kathy and Sheree, know too in front of everyone in the group, and they can all say that they saw the witness and they witnessed Garcelle sharing that with everyone. But Kyle then opens up about the reason for her sensitivity being past sobriety talk on the show about her and Kathy's sister Kim, where Garcelle then makes another good point in saying something can just be bad and not just an excuse for bad behavior. Where Crystal confesses, echoing Garcelle, saying she expects her friends to call her out and thinks Kyle has a kind of toxic all or nothing stance with friendships based on this moment alone. While I continue to see Kyle's point of view on this based on her past experiences on the show, which we were all along for the ride for 12 years now, I would think this would make Kyle actually more supportive of Garcelle wanting to get ahead of Erika going down the path Kim did. But then again, Kyle and many of the other girls, and other recapping bloggers too, have warped what Garcelle said recently in questioning Erika's path with alcohol and meds as her diagnosing. And that's just not the case. Garcelle has been very clear in saying, are we enabling Erika to go down a path ending with an alcoholism? She never said Erika was an alcoholic or diagnosed her. Now, Erika, meanwhile, is trying to explain to Lisa and Diana that Amelia, Lisa's daughter, was the one who inspired her to take care of her mental health, which I don't know if that should be a compliment to Amelia, considering Erika seemingly is getting worse after allegedly getting help for her mental health. So I don't know what she meant by that. But she then continues to say she is on other things and has had a few drinks, but insists she is okay. But then thanks her friends, including Lisa and her daughters, for getting her through this moment in her life, adding, though, she thinks things go south and ugly when you say you don't understand. Okay, not sure what that meant. But Erika then turns down any offer to stay the night at Diana's since she just lives down the street and she has a friend, Lisa, to make sure she gets home safe. which I think was good thinking. And I would not trust Erika to stay at my house in this form, especially with Asher and Diana, Diana's son, Diana's son's girlfriend, Diana's daughter, all there, considering Erika's recent behavior as far as married and taken people. Just saying. And before she leaves, she has some trouble getting up and out the door, needing this time Lisa Rinna as her third leg, whereas she had Diana before to get on the yacht in Mexico. And before the party ends, Garcelle and Diana continue a positive development in their friendship after Garcelle's warm gestured arrival, where Diana starts off explaining her behavior at the birthday party, but apologizing, adding Sutton pushing every button before Garcelle walked up was the reason for her behavior, but adds she does want to have lunch with Garcelle soon because she does see there is some likability between them there. Although Diana does confess she still isn't sure if the problem was Garcelle or her, or the fact that Sutton wasn't present this time that made this interaction different than before. And the party ends with more Kathyisms, harkening back to the early seasons of the show with Kim, which apparently the Richard sisters all like to hide things for fun. Okay, but this had me a little trying to dig a little deeper. What does this all mean? Kyle said it's just them not wanting to end the party and wanting to continue to have fun. But it sounds to me like she has some Michael Jackson child trapped in an adult body influence in her. We know they grew up with Michael Jackson, so I'm thinking it's kind of that kid inside of you coming out. I don't know. But let's move on to another Kemsley bombshell, coincidentally, halfway through the season as the robbery story dies down. That story being PK being arrested for suspicion of DUI, which came out publicly 3 weeks after it happened, conveniently, where Dorit confesses this came out of nowhere weeks later. And how did the press find out? I don't know. Maybe the same reason that they found out or they got hold of your security camera footage from the robbery, maybe. I don't know, but Dorit insists PK was really upset when he told Dorit about it after it happened. But then he feels the need to confess more to Dorit 3 weeks later here on camera, now that Dorit is more annoyed since it came out publicly. She calls his bluff, however, about not telling her from jail because he couldn't, but was worried she would worry he would be home late. Also saying that he was blood alcohol level 0.81, which is just over the 0.8 legal limit. Then I guess the second test he took was slightly under the limit, which is why he only got a ticket, and then was uncuffed once he was under the limit. But PK keeps gaslighting Dorit, saying, I didn't tell you at first because I didn't want you to put you through this at 4 a.m. over the phone, knowing what you have just been through alone with the robbery. And he says, I didn't have to tell you. I wasn't going to tell you, but I did. Okay. Where this kind of sends Dorit over the edge more, 3 weeks later, mind you, by saying, no, the only reason you called me was to pick up your car from wherever it was. And Dorit then makes a good point, and PK hadn't told her. If PK hadn't told her and it came out in the press, then there would be hell to pay. And I can imagine that would be so. But Dorit then gets emotional thinking of the possibility PK would lie to her, confessing though she is less mad knowing how serious PK is taking this, and thanks God he is okay and didn't hurt anyone else or himself. Now I have some thoughts on this, of course, as someone in the transportation industry offline. I don't care if you are 0.79, 0.8, 0.81 blood alcohol level. If you are impaired in any way, you should not be behind the wheel, period. If you cannot afford the rideshare home or pay the price of hurting or killing yourself or anybody else as a result of your driving impaired, then you cannot afford to have that drink. It will cost you a lot more than a few bucks and gratuity at the bar. And I hold this principle for everyone, myself included, from reality star to the husband of the Speaker of the House. Like I said, with Erika and her recent tax problems, this to me is the Kemsleys displaying a pattern of poor decisions that eventually I think will catch up to them if they keep getting away with stuff. For instance, if the robbery was actually fake and they got away with it. I cited this as well before related to O.J. Simpson, who was found not guilty for murder, but ended up getting jail time for another crime years later, likely because he literally thought he could get away with murder. But if PK was smart, I think he should have just called an Uber, not to give him ideas, should have just called an Uber home from the jail or wherever he was without a car, saying to Dorit, well, I was drinking and I wanted to be responsible, then take an Uber the next day to pick up his own car if he really wanted to hide this happened. But of course, the Kemsleys' plot hole filled stories this season are a few of the alibis for them not being able to fake this stuff in my eyes, or not being smart enough to fake it. Anyways, this scene did seem to be slightly forced, where PK was almost smirking and smiling, reacting to Dorit's over the top anger towards him, but also it wasn't as dramatized in the editing perspective as the robbery. Maybe because this is something they don't want out there, or the editors are trying to force us to think a certain way about them. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird, random scene to me. Now to Erika with her publicist, Jack, and creative director Mikey Minden talking their hair extension business. Now, before we get to Lisa arriving to talk to them, we need to talk about Jack, pictured here. Jack was in the photo shoot seen a few weeks ago with Erika, and I thought he looked familiar at the time, but I didn't get a chance to verify my suspicion because we never really saw him credited on the screen with a name. So I cut that from that recap, but now I can confirm that this is, or at least I'm pretty sure, this is the same Jack from season 1 or 2 of Real Housewives of Orange County. He was present during Joe De La Rosa's photo shoot for her music career, set up by then fiancé Slade Smiley. The irony there too is that Mikey Minden also worked for Gretchen, former Real Housewife of Orange County, who before she joined the show was a friend of Joe and Slade, and now is the husband and baby daddy of, or now Slade is the husband and baby daddy of Gretchen. So let me know if you caught this or not. I haven't really watched any other recaps yet as of filming this recap. I usually do that in my first, before I upload it, and then I do the extra members recap and react with me watching others' reactions. So maybe I'm the first to notice this, I don't know, but if I am, then I will give myself a pat on the back and I feel a little bit better about the hundreds, if not thousands of hours watching the Housewife shows since 2006, going on 20 years now, leading to this little tidbit Easter egg that I was able to kind of show you guys. But anyways, let's keep going. So after seeing the photos from the photo shoot that we saw a few weeks ago, and some flashbacks to Erika, quote unquote, having it all over the years on the show, including the jets and the multiple closets and the jewelry and all the things, Erika says she is going to work her ass off to get everything back. Still ignoring the fact that she may have to hand over most of that she earns before and get back to ground zero after paying off any debtors she may have before getting back on top. But she does make a good pitch for her hair line because she has worn a lot of hair extensions for many years. But after Jack, her publicist, leaves, Erika and Mikey are left behind with Lisa. Where we learn from Erika, she did get home from the Diana Christmas party we just saw and fainted or fell and hit her head, followed by her vomiting. Now, she confesses the holidays are desolate for her now and says this dark, depressing place is not fun for her, and admits to Lisa with tears she is used to having drinks socially, and it has been hard for her to accept the fact that she cannot drink on these meds, and confesses she went too far and now sees that after falling, hitting her head, and vomiting. Now, she says she absolutely cannot touch this, meaning alcohol, but Mikey tries to say Erika isn't known as a drinker for all the years he's known her, but Lisa confirms Erika drinking a normal amount before medications is like 5 or 10 times the amount on medications. Now, Erika also admits that she was reckless and was lucky she didn't hurt herself, followed by Lisa sharing she thinks Erika is in this place because her life with her ex was all a lie, so she is self-medicating the way her sister did, Lisa's sister did, when she was growing up, leading to an overdose and a death by someone not really labeled an addict at the time. Now, we will see if this is actually rock bottom for Erika and if she does change. I did notice Erika was only concerned for herself getting hurt in this situation and didn't say she was lucky she didn't hurt anyone else. Unlike how Dorit and PK just expressed with the DUI incident of them saying they're lucky he didn't hurt anyone else, which I think is the right way to think about it. But also in this revelation by Erika that she hit her head and vomited, I think it's could be planting the seed to use as an excuse for kind of mental challenges, shall we say, as a legal strategy, the way her now ex Tom did as far as his dementia and mental state in the car accident and all that whole storyline from last season. So let me know what you thought of that. But also, I did notice that Jack was labeled her publicist, which may be true, but he left the room before the conversation that was basically like an intervention light, if you will. I was thinking maybe having him over for the Pretty Mess hair meeting as her publicist with Lisa showing up was kind of an easy in for an intervention, and maybe he was the one as her publicist that kind of forced this to happen. I can imagine her publicist, not her creative director, is the one telling her to ease up on the booze. But I guess from our perspective as viewers, we're more used to seeing Lisa and Mikey there, and maybe those were the two obviously that she would listen to more than Jack. I don't know. Let me know what you thought of that whole scene. But now some Christmas wrap-ups with the girls and their home videos with their families, and kind of the toughness of less full families this year from a lot of loss. We learned, though, that Sutton spent it alone because she had the virus, but still bought herself a present. I'm still surprised that they're sharing their new expensive jewelry and things on the show, but at this point, that's on them if they become a bigger target. They know what they're getting into. But in the new year now, Sutton arrives at Garcelle's to catch up on everything, where we learn Sutton called her exes, basically all of her exes, she says, from her whole life during her quarantine because she was lonely during Christmas time. But Garcelle catches Sutton up on Diana's Christmas party, commenting on Asher's flowing hair, and another, of course, Erika tipsy moment where Sutton agrees to stay silent on this for now, finally learning her lesson at this point, where we also learn that Sutton's kids were with her ex and his girlfriend in Italy during the holidays, which she didn't know about until after, which she said added to her sadness during this time. And we again see why Garcelle and Sutton are so good for each other and good on the show on camera. But things quickly turn positive for Sutton, however, as she is now getting ready for her date with the man we saw from the Bumble call at her home a few weeks back in front of all the girls, reiterating her dating preferences of tall, employed, educated, and deal breakers of hoodies, ponytails, and white unmarked vans. Okay. And after another reminder of how her last season relationship ended and denying wanting a friend with benefits because her male friends are all gay, apparently. Side note, I don't understand why women have to think all their male friends have to be gay or that they can't have a straight best friend male or whatever. But anyways, after all that, she arrives to her date with Sanjeet wearing a sweater with a cat on it. It appears he doesn't have a hoodie or a ponytail. In fact, he is working with the opposite of a ponytail at the moment. So it looks like everything's good so far. And I like how Sutton called the app the Bumble. I just think it's funny, but also makes me think it's still product placement at this point. Not mad at it, though, if it means someone finds love. But we learned Sutton's background check on Sanjeet after their first date showed him, and after he met the girls via FaceTime, showed him as being from Virginia, went to law school in New Orleans, and he was on Jeopardy. But they then bond over poor eyesight while reading the menu. I mean, that's an easy in for anyone over a certain age. And we learned that their first date had them at a dive bar with beer and wine, bonding over movies, books, and college football. And a month later, here we are with them, coupled with some normal, awkward Sutton highlighting her itchy leg as Sanjeet is trying to converse about music preferences. And we end with Sutton confessing she just wants someone who will put up with her, not a boyfriend, not a husband at the moment, but good for Sutton. I think this is cool seeing her kind of get back on the dating scene. But Dorit is now over to Kyle's house for a friend catch-up date, debriefing the DUI incident, where Dorit continues pointing out how ironic it is that this all came out when it did, confessing she is annoyed they have to relive this. But I can't help but think she's trying to sell this too much, and the more she talks about this, the more I think they actually planted this in the press before it came out without their control. Anyways, we learned that PK actually told Mauricio about it, and Mauricio did not tell Kyle. So PK and Mauricio both knew before their wives, where Kyle laughs at Dorit saying, well, the reason for that is because PK would take a bullet for Mauricio. And it appears, though, Kyle and Dorit sharing this with each other may have them teaming up against their husbands for keeping things from them. However, Kyle then says something sort of dumb, in my opinion, of being caught off guard that these quote-unquote big guys having a little to drink would set off the breathalyzer. From my understanding, at least from what I know, the breathalyzer is based on a percentage of your blood alcohol level, if you will. So for PK to set it off, he had to have a higher number of drinks than maybe his wife or Kyle would have to have the same percentage on the test. So clearly I think PK had more than they realized, but it does appear that they are all shaken by this happening. And Kyle adds on saying that she gets nervous when cops are around in general, even if she hasn't done anything, which I think is normal for people. But they then share the joy of the kids nowadays, at least Ubering a lot of places and feeling better about them not drinking and driving. But that is contingent on if the driver and other drivers around them are not impaired or they're sober. So I don't know. But Dorit gushes then over Kyle confessing she, Mauricio, and their girls all have the Find a Friend feature shared with each other so they know where everyone is at all times, which I thought was funny and kind of relatable. But we finally end the episode with a turn of events, sort of Erika and Garcelle meeting for drinks on a rooftop to catch up, where Erika recently indicating she needs to curb her drinking ended very quickly after her first drink order, a chamomile tea with honey, was denied by the host or the waiter or waitress because they don't serve, I guess, hot drinks on that rooftop. And it leads Erika to an easy in to order an alcoholic beverage, which Garcelle picked up on her confessional, and I think I'll touch on it in a moment. But Erika then says her sex life is better than her dating life, to Garcelle saying, wow, fantastic. And they go right into rehashing their last interaction, where Erika confesses it wasn't just a silly tipsy moment, it was her getting blackout drunk, and shares with Garcelle Lisa coming over that we just saw to put her in her place as a friend, basically on behalf of the entire group. Now, Erika says she is struggling after her life imploded, but adds her gut tells her she will be all right, where Garcelle agrees and confesses she believes Erika and hopes she actually follows through this time, where Garcelle then leads Erika to being very blunt and analyzing the friend group with her eyes open now after this falling and hitting her head incident, as telling Garcelle she is quote unquote glad you have Sheree because Sutton is a liability for you, which rightfully Garcelle is shocked by this. Of course, after Erika said this in a very similar rehearsed, like emotionless tone that she did last season when she reiterated the accident car flipping story with Tom and her son late in last season, leading to that whole scene of Kyle and PK and Mauricio and Dorit making fun of it. But Garcelle then defends her friend Sutton, asking why does everyone come down so hard on Sutton, also confessing with clips how we just saw in Mexico Sutton and Erika were buddies, so what happened? And she also confesses, Garcelle, that Erika is the walking liability and the most scandalous woman in America right now, not Sutton. And after imploring everyone to lay off Sutton for now, Garcelle did that. Erika adds, well, she is her own master of her own disaster. And Erika thinks Garcelle is always defending Sutton, but adds Sutton is a big girl who knows what she is doing. And we'll have to wait until the next couple episodes to see what Erika meant by that and Sutton and the other girls' response to this whole new level of crazy. First, though, is there a chance that Erika chose this rooftop bar knowing she would not be served a warm non-alcoholic beverage, and it was kind of like a well I tried moment and kind of gave her an easy way to drink? I don't know, maybe. But Garcelle confesses a good point in why not ask for a soft drink or a Shirley Temple or something non-alcoholic that's not hot? I don't know. But also, Erika calling Sutton a liability is the definition of a projection, as pointed out by Garcelle. But also, in my opinion, I think this was a Hail Mary last attempt to try to take Sutton down by Erika, because most of this group has tried throwing many things against the wall, hoping it would stick as far as taking down Sutton or making her look bad. And it is clearly not working. In fact, I think it is doing the opposite in actually garnering more support for Sutton despite any of her weaknesses or downfalls. But I will see you channel members in the extra tier and higher in the extra recap and react for this episode. I want to thank you for having me in your online life. And as always, if you have missed any of the recaps so far from this season, whether that be the full recap, the extra members only videos, or the shorts, the playlists are on the screen or in the description box on YouTube. And of course, if you're listening or watching anywhere else, then they'll be you can click around the channel for more for all of that. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.